What is going on, CaneSport? It is Izubee Charles, and good morning to you all. It is February 22nd, 2023, and I would like to thank everyone for joining us on Good Morning CaneSport. Today, I'm joined by Matt Shodell as we break down the news of the day. And like the 1980 Bill Withers song, Matt, it's just the two of us this morning, so let's get things going. First off, last night we received news of Tim Harris Jr. becoming the new Miami Hurricanes running back coach, and you can all read about on the website. Matt, your thoughts on that new hire by Myra Cristobal and the Hurricanes?
Yeah, well, it's funny how this stuff sort of leaks out. Gary had known about it for a few days, and of course, you get asked not to report things, but then it leaks out, and they're like, okay, I guess. But the truth is, as of last night, it still was, it's not really done until they sign, right? And there's background checks, whatever else. So I don't know, it's not officially official yet, but it's official. Does that make sense? It's not officially official, but official, right?
Not till pen hits that paper.
Just like you being the host of Good Morning CaneSport, it's not officially official, but it's official. Gary's not here, so.
Hopefully, him and Steven aren't at Hooters right now.
Yeah. But yeah, look. I personally, everyone out there knows I hate every hire that anybody makes at Miami. I'm just a negative person. I actually happen to like this hire. I like the Harris family. I don't mind if Brandon Harris comes. I don't mind if Ice Harris comes. Like, bring them all here. Why not? But I remember Tim Jr. from when he was a great track athlete at Miami, and then obviously he coached football in high school, and very, very even-keeled guy, a guy who just is all about getting the job done, working hard. And I think he's going to be an excellent fit at Miami. I think Miami really wants to have some alumni on the staff. And he's not a football alumni, but he is an alumni. He is in the Hall of Fame for track. And it's important to have at least one or two alumni on your staff because they know what the culture of the University of Miami is. They know what it's supposed to be a Miami Hurricane. Tim Harris Jr. grew up here. He knows how great this program can be. His father's a legendary high school coach who worked for several years under Randy Shannon. So this is a family that gets it. This is a family with deep ties in the community, especially at a program like Booker T. Washington and other high schools around that area. So to me, it's a no-brainer hire. And it sort of cracks me up when Telly Lockett, who's another former high school coach from down here, he was interviewed, he was considered, he didn't get the job, but of course, how this stuff is spun. It's he turned down Miami. Everybody turned down Miami. Nobody wants the Miami job from the group of 5 schools. Look, everybody. It's pretty obvious. Sometimes it's just common sense what happens. If a guy doesn't get the job, it's almost like your boss fires you and you say, hold on, I quit, and you storm out. It's sort of like that. So, but anyway, yeah, but I like the hire. I think it's great. I think that this is gonna be a really nice fit, personality-wise, work-wise, everything-wise. I really like it.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that, Matt, with the hiring of Ice Harris. I met his father actually covering some recruiting this year, so I see the personality. I love the energy that his dad brings, and I'm guessing it, rubs off on his son. And on Twitter, I saw the reactions of Henry Parrish and Mark Fletcher, and they seem pretty happy with the hiring of Ice Harris. So that's good having, a connection right there with your running back coach. And while we got
let me ask you something, Izubee. You were a player, right?
Mhm.
If they hire a new coach, would you ever be like, oh, I don't like that guy? They should have gone with Telly Lockett. I don't get it. Of course, every player is going to say how great and happy they are. But in this case, I think they actually should be, So I don't know, for whatever that's worth.
Okay. And then last night we had the news of Tim Harris potentially being. We also saw our baseball and basketball teams pick up big wins with the basketball team down in Virginia Tech 76-70 on the road. Matt, just your thoughts on that matchup, Miami winning their 7th straight game.
Yeah, I was as happy watching that as having you host Gary instead of you hosting CaneSport instead of Gary. Good Morning CaneSport instead of Gary. Apparently, I can't even speak when Gary's not the host. I don't know. That didn't go over so well. Izubee, I guess you won't edit that out because it just makes me look stupid. So just leave it in. Who cares? Nobody cares. But yeah, listen, the game that Miami played was really good. The parts that I watched, I missed some of it because I was finishing up some of that Tim Harris Jr. story last night, but I did watch most of it. And what makes Miami really hard to deal with from an opponent's perspective is there's not just 2 or even 3 guys that you have to stop. There's a legitimate 4 guys. Wooga Poplar's on the verge of being a 5th guy you have to worry about. And there's not many teams in the ACC or beyond that you can say there's 4 guys who legitimately can score 20 points. One of them, Nortet Omer, is an almost automatic double-double most games. Any of the other 3 can score 20 points on a given night. I'm talking about obviously Wong, Miller, and Pack. And it's just, I don't know what can slow this program down. I think they're playing as good at basketball as anyone in the ACC. They're technically a game behind Virginia for the regular season ACC title, 1 in the win column, 1 in the loss column. But they beat Virginia head-to-head the only time they played. Virginia still has to play North Carolina. Miami still has to play Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's decent. And I mean, Miami also has to play FSU. I guess I should mention that, but FSU is not real good. So, there's every chance that Miami can finish tied with Virginia atop the ACC if Virginia loses a game and Miami beats Pittsburgh, which is a very, decent possibility. So listen, the bottom line, all Miami fans care about, Miami, it's weird. Izubee, do you think Miami fans care about the ACC regular season title? Do you think they care?
Nah, I feel like at the end of the season, that's all they care about. The hard.
Yeah, I don't even know if they care about the ACC tournament title. I think fans really just care about the NCAA tournament, which is sort of weird because for the players, winning an ACC regular season title is super important. For the players, winning an ACC tournament title is super important. And for the players, of course, doing really well and getting a really high seed at the NCAA tournament is really important. But for fans, I have this weird feeling in basketball. It's almost like in football. Like in football, you win the Coastal, which Miami didn't do, except for I think 1 year, and fans aren't even that excited about it, And if you lose in the ACC title game, fans are upset. You got to go to a great bowl game, or fans are upset. And you got to win the great bowl game, or fans are upset. In basketball, fans don't really care if you don't win the ACC regular season title. No one's saying, they should have won it. They screwed up this game or that game, or Larinaga missed this call or that call. They don't really, if you lose in the ACC tournament, I mean, fans would rather you don't lose, but, it's not like the end of the world. But if you lose in the first or second round of the NCAA tournament when you have this team, then fans will be upset. So really, this team just basically has to make it to Sweet 16, Elite 8, and then fans will be like, okay, this was a good year, Anything short of that, it's not going to be a good year, but you could lose the final regular season game to Pittsburgh. You could lose your first game in the ACC tournament because you're going to have a double bye. And then as long as you make it to the Sweet 16 or Elite 8, everyone's pretty happy, I think. Am I wrong? That's what I think.
Yeah, I think Elite 8 gets a couple of smiles on people's faces.
Yeah, and I think they can go beyond that. I really think this could be a Final Four team just because, like I said, they have so many weapons. They can outscore anybody. The issue is going to be there are some teams that will have some size that can cause some problems. We'll find out with Pittsburgh. I think Pittsburgh has 2 or 3 7-foot guys. That's like, I think it was Maryland early in the year that caused Miami all sorts of problems. Their worst loss of the year, really big Maryland team. And we'll see when we get Pittsburgh here if Miami sort of figured out a little better way of dealing with that, where it's not just Norchad. And if he gets in foul trouble, oh my gosh, the game's over. Because they have to be able to get beyond that.
Sure. And then turning the page to a little bit of recruiting, we have a new feature inside the lines with 2024 defensive lineman Justin Scott out of Chicago, Illinois, who is quickly rising to the top of recruiting boards. He's a top 20 prospect in the 2024 class. I had the chance to sit down and talk with him, just not so much about football, but getting to know as a prospect. So make sure to check that out on our site this morning as well. Then with spring practice rapidly approaching March 4th, we begin our position by position previews, which we start with the quarterback position. Matt, I know you've been doing a lot of work with all this, looking in the positions. Just your thought on that QB position headed into spring practice.
Yeah, by the way, how refreshing is it to have you as a host, Izubee? Have you hosted numerous podcasts before? You're like an expert. How is this like your 500th episode of hosting Good Morning Izubee or something? Because you're like a natural.
I wish it was, but we're just going with the flow right now.
I don't know. We got to start a poll for who wants Matt Shodell and Gary Furman off entirely and just let it be the Izubee show. You're super mellow. You don't have my ADD. You don't have any obvious mental problems. You don't seem to be constantly depressed about the state of the team. For some reason, you're smiling. Like, this is my smile. You're always smiling. I don't understand it. Like, I don't understand people like you, But I'm glad you're happy. I'm glad you're enjoying life, and I'm glad you're hosting this. So yeah. So as for the quarterback position, I think how did we? I'm trying to bring up the story here. So okay. So basically, here's what we did. We are taking a look. Spring practice starts March 4th. Izubee stopped smiling when I mentioned spring practice starting because Izubee will not be sleeping starting on March 4th.
Yeah.
Neither will I, neither will Gary, and neither will Stephen Wagner. So basically, what I decided to do was take a look heading into spring practice at each position, which we always do, but I want to make it a little bit different and sort of do an analysis and sort of what the keys are at each position. And yeah, we started with the quarterback position. And, at quarterback, they only have 3 guys. Normally, they carry 4. I don't think it's going to be tough to fill that 4th spot in the portal just because who are you going to get in May that's going to want to come here and be a backup to Tyler Van Dyke? I'm sure Miami would love to get an extra quarterback, but, I can't imagine it would happen, but we'll see. And then, in terms of the keys for spring, to me, the obvious key across offenses, of course, you have a new coordinator. You're going to have some new position coaches. That's just obvious. To me, the obvious stuff, I don't really care about. What's interesting to me, what I'm going to be looking for this spring, aside from the obvious stuff, how are they lining up? What are they doing? Who's first team, second team? What sort of different scheme is this versus the Josh Gaddis horrendous, I wouldn't even call it a scheme. I don't know what it was, but I'm not going to call it a scheme, is going to be the backup quarterback. Because let's face it, Tyler Van Dyke was hurt last year. And when he was hurt, he had played 2 great games and just the wheels fell off the whole season. They maybe could have won a couple of more games if they had better quarterback play. Fans may not believe it, but they really could have. And 7-5 is a little bit better than 5-7. It's still not great. But you need to have somebody if something happens. So to me, one of the most important keys for all of spring is either for Jakari to show that he has progressed tremendously as a passing quarterback. And if he has, he's exactly the kind of quarterback that Shannon Awesome wants. That's what I call him, Izubee. I'm sorry, I call him Shannon Awesome. And Shannon Awesome, when he was at Houston, that's what he had. He had a dual threat quarterback the last 2 years who put up ridiculous numbers, threw 40 touchdowns last year. I think ran in another 5, was the team's leading rusher. That's something Jakari can do if he can actually throw the ball. And he has all the arm talent in the world. It's accuracy and mechanics that are the problem for him. He should never have played last year. It was a disservice to him, probably a disservice to his development. We're going to find out this spring if he's now a mental patient or if he's able to actually overcome some of the obstacles that were thrown in his way and can show some strides. Last spring and last fall, there were times he was missing the net entirely on his throws in practice, and he didn't look much better sometimes in games. Now, with that said, Emory Williams comes in. Emory Williams likes to tell you he has a lot of speed, likes to tell you he's working with a speed coach, but I would probably say he's working with a slow coach because he's not fast. It's not fair to call somebody who's slow a speed guy. But with that said, he's looking to try and get in the 4.7, 4.8 range, which is fine for a quarterback. I mean, he's not going to run by a lot of guys. But if he's mobile enough, that's great, because Tyler Van Dyke isn't a running quarterback either, but he's mobile enough to pick up, 5 or 10 yards if he has to, if he has a lot of room. And maybe that's good enough. Now, that's not quite what Shannon Awesome had at Houston. So we'll see how Emory Williams fits. Emory Williams is a big, tall pocket passer with good accuracy. Jakari is a lean, relatively tall, not pocket passer, dual threat quarterback, totally opposite quarterbacks, right? So it's going to be really interesting to see which of these guys will fit this offense better and how Shannon Awesome uses both of them. With that said, Tyler Van Dyke's obviously the starter, and you want to see how he's going to mess with the receivers and all this other stuff. They're going to do a lot of running back passing game, way more than we saw last year. So that stuff we'll be talking about down the road. And fans are going to complain now, Izubee, because I feel like I'm doing all the talking, and fans don't want me to talk. They hate my New York/British accent. All right, New York accent, whatever. But I was born in Britain, for those of you that missed that show. That's why I said that. So, Izubee, you tell me, from what you know, do you think that the quarterbacks will do well this spring? Do you think that there will be a great backup quarterback? I imagine you're way more optimistic than I am about everything.
Of course, I'm Mr. Happy-Go-Lucky, so there's always a ray of sunshine on a cloudy day. But I do think under Shannon Awesome, like you like to call him, Miami will find success under a coach like that. We've seen, what Miami can do with a kind of a spread air raid offense under Rhett Lashley. Tyler Van Dyke really shined under that type of offense. So I feel like there's similarities between Rhett Lash's offense, where we saw Tyler Van Dyke had his breakout, year, to what we're going to see this upcoming spring, upcoming fall. So I do have a lot of optimism towards that. And with Jakari Brown, recently something came out, him being one of the fastest guys on the team. So I feel like the offensive coordinator that comes from Houston with, dual threat quarterbacks, Jakari Brown can find some way to make an impact on that offense. So I'm real optimistic to see what he does with the quarterback, including Mr. Emery. I trained to get faster Williams, and really optimistic to see about him. And then just continue on the Shannon Awesome bandwagon. He's been handing out, offers to quarterbacks all across the country, including a local South Florida guy, AJ Harrison, which was Miami, was his first offer, including from around the country, Miami being his favorite team growing up, picking up the offer from the Canes. That's another great story that we have on site. Also, another quarterback to pick up an offer from Shannon Awesome is Marcos Davila out of Texas, who's currently committed to TCU. Dawson had a conversation with him, told him, hey, you're my number one guy no matter where I go. So that is another great story that we have on site. Also, make sure to check out our feature on women's basketball hoop star Destiny Harden, who's making her impact felt after returning from injury this season. She's pretty much the North Chatham of the women's team, just a double-double machine. And as always, stay tuned for any news that may come up. Well, that's all that we have for this episode.
No, that's not all we have, Izubee. I got one more little thing for you. Have you ever covered a spring practice before?
No.
Okay. I'm going to give you a couple of tips because spring practice is coming up.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, if Gary's around, do not go. They have like a cool room. It's like a pure glass windows right attached to the practice field. They keep it at like 40 degrees, and so players can go in there and cool off if they need to. Don't go in there because when I went in there last time, Gary held the door shut. I almost froze to death. Okay, so don't do that if Gary's around. Second of all, I don't know if you've met all the reporters, whatever, but do not believe whatever Manny Navarro and Barry Jackson tell you about me. It's not true. I did not do any of those things. Okay? That's it. Now you can go ahead and sign off.
All right. Well, that's all that we have for this episode of Good Morning CaneSport. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us to kick off your day, and I hope you enjoyed. If you like today's show with me and Matt and want to see us just keep it rolling, just the two of us, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up.
Good luck with that, Izubee.
Subscribe to the channel and CaneSport.com if you already haven't. For Matt Shodell, I'm Izubee Charles. Thank you for watching, and hope you have a great day.